faithfully delivering value and interpreting great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today I'm going to interpret this book called Heavenly Split, with the subtitle A True Record of the Song-Jin War in the 12th Century. The author of this book, Gu Hongyi, is a Song Dynasty historian and researcher at the Institute of Ancient Books, East China Normal University. Among the most humiliating events in ancient Chinese history, the most notorious are the Jingkang Incident of the Northern Song and the Shaoxing Peace Agreement of the Southern Song. In the Jingkang Incident of 1127, the Jin Dynasty wiped out the Northern Song, and the Song imperial family and officials, led by emperors Huizong and Qinzong, were exiled to the northeast and endured severe humiliation. And during the signing of the Shaoxing Peace Agreement in 1141, Emperor Gaozong of Song ignored national and personal hatred, groveled to the Jin, not only ceding land and paying indemnities, but also unjustly killing the famed general Yue Fei. After this, the Song and Jin dynasties split into North and South, and that's where this book's title, Heavenly Split, comes from. Why were the Song emperors willing to bear such disgrace? Facing the aggressive Jin dynasty, how did the Song dynasty manage to survive? This book tells the whole story of how the Northern Song and Jin went from alliance to conflict, then to the Southern Song and Jin facing off across North and South. The entire work has 6 chapters and 350,000 words. Next, I'll break it down into 3 parts to share the book's content with you. Part 1. How the Northern Song invited the wolf into its house and got destroyed by the Jin Dynasty. Part 2. How the Southern Song withstood the Jin's relentless pursuit and survived. Part 3. How Emperor Gaozong of Song's 3 major worries ruined the Southern Song's chance to reclaim lost territory. First, let's cover Part 1, how the Northern Song invited the wolf into its house and got destroyed by the Jin Dynasty. The outbreak of the Song-Jin War was initially tied to the Liao Dynasty. After the Song Dynasty was founded, the Yuyuan region, located in today's Beijing, northern Hebei, and northern Shanxi, was long held by the Liao Dynasty. Over this area, the Song and Liao fought fiercely. Sally's Book Talk has previously covered Strategizing for Yuyuan, which details this extensively. Later, even after the 2 nations signed a peace pact, the Song never fully abandoned its dream of retaking Yuyuan. In 1115, the Jurchens under Liao rule rebelled, founded the Jin Dynasty, and under the Jin army's fierce onslaught, the corrupt Liao Dynasty collapsed swiftly, sealing its doom. Seizing this chance, the glory-seeking Emperor Huizong of Song proactively allied with Jin, agreeing to jointly attack Liao from north and south. After Liao's fall, Yuyuan would go to Song. However, under Emperor Huizong's dark rule, Song politics grew corrupt, and military readiness decayed. Facing the weaker Liao dynasty, the Song army shockingly suffered one defeat after another. In 1123, the Song dynasty had to ask the Jin dynasty to help recapture Yuzhou, then spent huge sums to buy back this territory. The Song's actions not only drew contempt from Jin, but exposed their weakness, greatly fueling Jin nobles' ambitions and setting the stage for war. In early 1125, the Jin dynasty destroyed the Liao dynasty. Afterwards, intelligence about Jin's impending southern invasion kept pouring in, but the foolish Emperor Huizong and his court, basking in the joy of retaking Yuzhou, ignored all reports. By year's end, Jin forces advanced south in 2 prongs. The Eastern Army attacked Hebei. The Western Army struck Hedong. That's modern Shaanxi. Both armies planned to converge at Kaifeng, the Song capital. The Eastern Jin army swept through, crossed the Yellow River, and marched straight toward Kaifeng. Receiving this military alert amid revelry, Emperor Huizong panicked. To avoid being the last emperor, he summoned reinforcements while hastily passing the throne to his heir, Emperor Qingzong. As retired emperor, Huizong fled Kaifeng overnight the following spring. Qinzong, forced to inherit the crisis, tried to flee too but was stopped by officials. Li Gang repeatedly blocked him. Li Gang argued, the imperial guards' families were in the capital. If you flee, they'll abandon you mid-journey to protect their families. Plus, Jim's cavalry-dominated forces were nearby. You wouldn't get far before they caught you. Kaifeng's strong fortifications could withstand Jin's assault. Realizing staying was safer than fleeing, Qinzong finally agreed to remain and appointed Li Gang as vice-chancellor to oversee defenses. Just 3 days later, the Eastern Jin army reached the city and launched fierce attacks. Fortunately, Li Gang's preparations enabled Song forces to repel them repeatedly. Days later, Song reinforcements arrived at Kaifeng. 200,000 troops amassed against Jin's 60,000, boosting morale sky high. Li Gang proposed unifying command under him to crush the enemy. Qinzong refused, citing ancestral rules. Military power must be divided among multiple commanders to check each other and prevent threats to imperial authority. At this life-or-death moment, Emperor Qinzong prioritized keeping his throne over defeating the enemy, casting deep gloom over Song forces. Ultimately, Qinzong divided military command 3 ways: to Li Gang and the renowned generals Zheng Shidao and Yao Pingzhang, who came from Shanxi. The 76-year-old Zheng Shidao commanded high prestige. Upon reaching Kaifeng, he was appointed vice head of the Privy Council, helping lead the highest military authority. Both Zheng Shidao and Li Gang believed Jin forces still had ample supplies and strong combat capability. Song troops should cut Jin's supply lines and hold defenses without engaging. When the overextended Jin army exhausted itself and retreated across the Yellow River, Song forces could destroy them. However, emboldened by 200,000 troops, the timid Qinzong grew overconfident and rushed to drive out Jin through decisive battle. Yao Pingzhang, sharing command with Li Gang and Zheng Shidao, to compete for glory, seized the chance to propose a surprise attack on Jin's camp in 3 days, which Qinzong approved. Since it was a sneak attack, secrecy was essential. Yet preparing victory celebrations, the court made such fanfare that everyone from Kaifeng street vendors to Jin commanders knew about it. When Yao Pingzhang led troops to raid the camp on schedule, the prepared Jin army naturally crushed them. Yao Pingzhang fled to escape punishment. Li Gang and Zheng Shidao, having advocated resistance, became scapegoats and were dismissed, while the top decision-maker, Emperor Qinzong, bore no responsibility, but Kaifeng's soldiers and citizens thought otherwise. Students at the Imperial Academy launched protests first, followed by over 100,000 citizens and soldiers spontaneously petitioning at the palace, demanding Li Gang and Zheng Shidao reinstatement. Fearing rebellion, Qinzong finally reinstated Li Gang and Zheng Shidao. Seeing Kaifeng united against the enemy, with more Song reinforcements arriving, the situation increasingly favored Song. The Eastern Jin commander decided to withdraw, but Qinzong had zero confidence in defeating Jin. Early in his reign, he'd appointed a prime minister who offered no defense plans, only shouting about trading land for peace. While Li Gang and Zheng Shidao fought Jin, peace factions under Qinzong's protection constantly sabotaged defenses. Finally, to hasten Jin's withdrawal, Qinzong agreed to all demands: massive indemnity, ceding 3 strategic border cities, addressing Jin emperor as uncle, and sending prime minister and prince as hostages. However, with the Western Jin army delayed, the Eastern forces feared complications. They withdrew hastily without full payment or formal land transfer. They withdrew north. After Kaifeng was relieved, Emperor Qinzong of Song, who narrowly escaped national doom, didn't learn his lesson to strengthen defenses. Instead, he focused on cracking down on his own people. On one hand, he brought back Emperor Huaizong, who had fled south, and placed him under house arrest in Kaifeng to prevent him from regaining power. On the other hand, he severely punished the Imperial Academy students who led the petition and tightened control over anti-Jin sentiments. In short, Qinzong, hell-bent on begging for peace, wouldn't tolerate anyone challenging him. As for the emperor's authority, pro-war figures like Li Gang and Zheng Shidao naturally had a tough time. Zheng Shidao resigned due to old age and illness.
and Li Gang was also pushed out of court by the peace faction.
At that time, while the Eastern Jin army had withdrawn, the Western Jin army was still besieging Taiyuan, a key stronghold in Hedong. Because Li Gang insisted on resisting Jin, Qinzong and the peace faction deliberately sent him to lead troops to lift the siege of Taiyuan. This decision was a total farce. First off, Li Gang wasn't skilled at large-scale warfare and couldn't handle a siege relief mission. Second, Qinzong invoked ancestral rules again, micromanaging the Song army from afar. Li Gang was just a commander without real authority. Even his requests for strategic supplies were flat-out ignored by Qinzong. Finally, with inadequate prep, Qinzong still forced Li Gang into battle. The result? Total annihilation of the Song army. Taiyuan was captured by the Western Jin army, and the Eastern Jin army seized the chance to take Zhengding, a crucial town in Hebei. After the Jingding defeat, Li Gang and pro-war ministers were sacked and blamed, while the top decision-maker, Emperor Qinzong, still dodged all responsibility. And post-Taiyuan failure, most Song elites were wiped out, morale tanked, and the dynasty hung by a thread. Zhang Shidao, despite grave illness, returned to oversee defenses. Zhang Shidao believed that after losing key border forts like Taiyuan and Zhengding, the Jin army would surely invade south en masse. So, he ordered local troops to rush reinforcements to Kaifeng, while urging Qinzong to temporarily move to Chang'an, better for defense, to avoid capture if Kaifeng fell. But Qinzong thought Zhang Shidao was overreacting. Even more absurdly, the peace faction, scared of provoking Jin and giving them invasion excuses, recalled all reinforcements heading to Kaifeng. Seeing the court was hopeless, Zhang Shidao died of illness in despair. Without Li Gang and Zhang Shidao, the court fell to the peace faction. Qinzong even offered to cede all land north of the Yellow River for peace with Jin, crushing Song army morale further. In court, ministers brawled over whether to cede territory. Procession folks feared angering Jin, while opponents weren't anti-Jin, just worried forced cession would spark peasant revolts. While the Song court bickered pointlessly, Jin's main forces swept south again. Both armies met at Kaifeng virtually unopposed. This time they sealed Kaifeng like an iron barrel. Only then did Qinzong scramble, summoning reinforcements, but most troops were exhausted from last time, so few responded. Song now lacked Li Gang's intellect and Zhang Shidao's military genius. No elite troops inside, no allies outside. Jin doubled their forces. Kaifeng hung by a thread. Qinzong completely lost his wits and grabbed at straws. Urged by his chancellor, he enlisted Guo Jing, a known fraudster. Using birth charts, they recruited 7,000 street bugs as so-called six-armor divine soldiers to fight Jin.
That day, Guo Jing performed rituals on the wall. Following his orders, the chancellor made all defenders descend, then opened the gates. The divine soldiers charged, only to be instantly slaughtered. Jin stormed in as demoralized Song troops fled. After a month's defense, Kaifeng fell in chaos.
But Kaifeng had inner and outer walls. Jin only took the outer. At this life-or-death moment, soldiers and citizens united, ready to fight Jin to the last. Jin troops hesitated to descend the walls, but once again, Qinzong failed at the critical hour. After weeping hysterically, the terrified emperor personally delivered surrender terms to Jin's camp, accepting all conditions. The Jin demanded outrageous reparations: 10 million ingots of gold, 20 million of silver, and 10 million bolts of silk, then released to Rizong to collect it. Though groveling before the Jin, Qinzong immediately played emperor upon returning, swaggering with authority. Per Jin's orders, he imposed harsh laws to disarm citizens, then ransacked the city. From nobles to orphans and welfare homes, all were forced to surrender valuables. But Jin's demands were impossible. He barely gathered 1/10. Finally bankrupt, he traded women as currency to offset the debt. Haifeng became a wasteland of misery. Citizens secretly forged weapons to rebel, only for the court to seize smithies and torture resistors.
At that time, a wrestler named Li Bao gathered citizens to expose Jin's looting of Kaifeng, only to be brutally executed by the court for spreading rumors.
In Qinzong's eyes, commoners existed to be exploited, the nation to be carved up, and patriotic officials, soldiers to be scapegoated. Only his throne was untouchable. Ironically, Qinzong groveled before Jin. It couldn't save his throne. In February 1127, Jin deposed Qinzong, then withdrew north with him. Huizong, thousands of imperial relatives and ministers, plus countless treasures. Northward they went, ending the Northern Song. Both emperors later died in distant frozen lands. Since this was the second year of Jingkang, history calls it the Jingkang Incident. Though Northern Song fell, Jin couldn't fully occupy its territory, giving Song a chance to revive. Now part 2, how the Southern Song court survived Jin's relentless pursuit. Just before Jin's second siege of Kaifeng, Zhao Gu, Huizong's ninth son and Qinzong's half-brother, was sent as hostage to Jin. En route, local officials and citizens persuaded him to stay in Shenzhou, modern Anyan, making him the only prince not captured. The day Qinzong surrendered, Zhao Gu received his secret decree in Shenzhou, becoming Grand Marshal to rally rescue forces. Troops flocked to respond and join him. A month later, Zhao Gu commanded 80,000 troops, yet like his father and brother, he feared fighting Jin. Instead of marching southwest to Kaifeng, the marshal's army moved eastward, so Zhao Gu watched passively as Jin abducted his family. After Jin withdrew, Song nobles and officials regained Kaifeng, planning restoration. Urged by officials, Zhao Gu ascended as Emperor Gaozong in Nanjing's Yingtian prefecture, modern Shangchu, Henan. Since Gaozong's Song mainly ruled southern China, it became known as Southern Song. After enthronement, he not only championed bringing back the two sagely emperors, Huizong and Qinzong, but also reinstated Li Gang, hero of Kaifeng's defense, as chancellor. Southern Song seemed poised for revival against Jin, but this was Gaozong's carefully crafted illusion to win support. Li Gang served as chancellor for only 75 days before being dismissed. Every new chancellor who took office was without exception from the peace faction. Though Li Gang's tenure was brief, he made significant contributions to resisting Jin and stabilizing public morale. And one of his most crucial achievements was recommending the pro-war official Zhang Zong to defend Kaifeng. After assuming command, Zhang Zhe restored order, recruited deserters, organized militias, and within 50 days transformed Kaifeng into northern China's anti-Jin stronghold. He not only crushed Jin's full-scale invasion, saving the fledgling Southern Song, but actively coordinated resistance forces to plan northern expeditions. Sadly, Emperor Gaozong had zero interest in reclaiming lost lands. Within a single year, Zhongzong petitioned Gaozong 24 times to return to Kaifeng and lead the resistance, all refused. Far from supporting Zhangze's campaigns, Gaozong actively sabotaged them. A year later, the 70-year-old Zhangze died, consumed by regret. Afterwards, peace factions took control of Kaifeng. The situation deteriorated, and the city fell again within 2 years. While northerners fought desperately, Gaozong and peace faction officials drowned in decadence down south. Less than 6 months after founding Southern Song, Gaozong fled to Yangzhou, north of the Yangtze. He indulged nonstop in palace pleasures while begging Jin for peace, but Jin, determined to destroy Southern Song, ignored these pleas. Just 1 month after Zhangze's death, Jin launched another southern invasion, routing Song forces. One day, while with a concubine, Gaozong heard Jin troops were nearing Yangzhou. Terrified, he dressed hastily and fled on horseback, abandoning the city. He fled without even alerting his officials. The extreme shock left him permanently sterile. After Gaozong fled, Yangzhou descended into chaos. Its 100,000 garrison troops disintegrated instantly. That evening, a 500 cavalry Jin vanguard stormed Yangzhou, burning, killing, looting. Refugees were slaughtered en masse, reducing the famed city to ruins. Meanwhile, Gaozong fled across the Yangtze to Jingkang, modern Nanjing. Facing aggressive Jin forces, Gaozong ignored resistance and instead wrote their commander begging mercy. In the letter, he didn't dare claim imperial title, shamelessly calling his state small, flattering Jin as great, and declaring Southern Song's wealth Jin's goods stored in external warehouses. Southern Song scholars were just Jin's vassals and pawns, measuring Song's strength solely to please Jin. But Gaozong got cold water splashed in his face by Jin. Before his envoy even reached Jin's camp, Jin launched its third full-scale invasion. The royal general Wanyan Wuzhu personally led the main force south, vowing to search every mountain and sea to capture Gaozong. Under peace faction command, demoralized Song troops collapsed again. Jin forces, poor at naval combat, somehow crossed the Yangtze barrier. Seeing Jin closing in, Gaozong boarded a ship and fled to sea, only docking at Wenzhou in southern Zhejiang. Southern Song morale disintegrated, teetering near collapse. When Wuzhu realized he couldn't catch Gaozong, he withdrew. Withdrawing north, they burned cities, looted, and committed atrocities. Gaozong then sailed back, ending his 4-month fugitive life at sea, but dared not return to Jiangkang, settling instead in coastal Shaoxing. If Jin attacked again, he could flee to sea from there. Despite Gaozong, like Huizong and Qinzong, fearing Jin like tigers and obsessed with fleeing, he knew escaping Jin's pursuit required military protection. Thus, Gaozong gradually empowered generals like Han Shizhong, Zhang Jun, Wu Ji, and actively promoted exceptional commanders like Yue Fei. This showed Gaozong's superiority over Qingzong, and why Southern Song avoided repeating the Jingkang disaster. On the brink of destruction, Southern Song gained a reversal chance. Take Han Shizhong's Battle of Huangtiandang, a prime example of Southern Song's rock-bottom rebound. When Jin crossed the river pursuing Gaozong, Han Shizhong operated south. Predicting Jin wouldn't stay, he prepared early, building 100-plus warships to ambush their return. And in March 1130, Wuzhu led 100,000 Jin troops north to Zhenjiang, planning to cross back. Han Shizhong, tipped off early, rushed ahead with 8,000 Song troops to blockade the river. Jin attacked Song forces on the river. Han ordered sailors with hooked chains to snag Jin boats when close, capturing them. Han's wife, Lady Liang, folk heroine Liang Hongyu, personally beat war drums to boost morale. Song morale soared, battering Jin troops into disarray. Since Southern Song's navy moved like lightning, while Jin's couldn't fight back, Wuzhu offered Han Shizhong all looted wealth and captives just to let Jin troops escape. Han Shizhong sternly refused, demanding Jin return Emperors Huizong, Qingzong, and occupied lands. Unable to break through Zhenjiang's north, Wuzhu led Jin troops west along Yangtze's south bank. Han pursued relentlessly, trapping them near Jingkang Prefecture. At Huangtiandang, 70 li northeast, Huangtiandang was a dead-end harbor. Song blocked the exit, besieging Jin troops whose repeated breakouts failed. Then Lian Hongyu urged immediate attack to annihilate Jin. Unfortunately, Han Shishong didn't listen. After 20-plus days trapped, locals showed Wuzhu how to dig a 50-li silted river channel overnight. By mid-April, they escaped. Han gave chase but retreated under Jin's fire attack. In May, exhausted Jin troops finally withdrew north of Yangtze. Though Huangtiandang ended in Song's defeat, Han Shishong's 8,000 troops fought 100,000 Jin for 40 days. They battled 40 days, inflicting massive casualties and crushing Jin's arrogance. After this, Wuzhu never dared propose crossing the river again. With Huangtiandang over, Gaozong dawdled a year and a half before returning north from Shaoxing. And when he established the capital in Linan, modern Hangzhou, securing Southern Song's foothold in the lower Yangtze. Around this time, Wu Ji repelled Jin's major offensive in Sichuan Shanxi, protecting the upper Yangtze. Yue Fei counterattacked at Hubei-Henan border, reclaiming Xinjiang and securing the middle Yangtze. Thus, Southern Song reversed its constant defeat streak since Song-Jin wars began. Song and Jin entered initial stalemate, a seesaw war across north-south lines. Yet despite favorable conditions, Gaozong insisted on humiliating peace terms with Jin. Because since Southern Song's founding, Gaozong harbored 3 incurable obsessions. Part 3 explores how Gaozong's three obsessions doomed Southern Song's reunification efforts. Gaozong's first obsession, Jin's attacks, pursued relentlessly, he developed severe psychological trauma. To Gaozong, only Jin's formal recognition through peace agreements could end this perpetual danger. Gaozong's second obsession, Kinzong's restoration. As Southern Song's situation improved, Jin revived the deposed Kinzong, claiming to restore him in Kaifeng as their puppet. This gravely threatened Gaozong's imperial legitimacy. Gaozong reasoned. Since Jin wanted a Central Plains proxy, better he submit as vassal first, making Song-Jin's dependency, then risk Kinzong returning as puppet to challenge his throne. Gaozong's final obsession, military insubordination. Song already had ancestral rules curbing generals. Two coups he personally witnessed deepened his distrust and fear of commanders. After fleeing Yangzhou to Jiangnan, officers Miao Fu and Liu Zhengyan launched a coup under pretext of punishing Yangzhou's collapse. They forced Gaozong to abdicate, enthroning his 3-year-old only son, known as the Miao Lu Mutiny. Though Han Shizhong quickly suppressed it and Gaozong regained power, his son died from shock. Gaozong grew profoundly suspicious of generals thereafter. Later, mishandling Huaishi command restructuring triggered another mutiny there. Huichi troops defected en masse, leaving Jiannan's defense dangerously exposed. After two coups, Gaozong became hypersensitive to military power, yet needed to tolerate warlords to fight Jin. Han Shizhong, Zheng Jun, Yu Fei, and Wu Ji commanded massive regional armies. Thus, for Gaozong, only peace with Jin could reduce war threats, letting him disarm generals and eliminate this internal danger. In short, Gaozong's three obsessions centered on desperately keeping his unexpected throne and power. Before throne and power, national humiliation, territory, and commoners meant nothing. Meanwhile, Jin underwent changes too. First, frequent internal power struggles weakened their offensive against Southern Song. Second, Jin's tyrannical rule in occupied territories sparked continuous resistance. Lastly, status decline conclusion inflicted heavy Jin casualties. Both Jurchen and Han troops grew unwilling to fight, crushing morale and combat effectiveness. So, Jin shifted strategy, hinting they'd return lands south of the Yellow River if Southern Song submitted as vassals. Peace-obsessed Gaozong instantly agreed. But with anti-Jin sentiment soaring and his rule unstable, Gaozong dared not reveal his true intentions. Thus, his three obsessions couldn't be announced, nor could he personally handle peace talks. Gaozong first crafted a noble pretext for peace: filial piety. Emperor Huizong had died. Gaozong claimed peace would retrieve his coffin and bring back his birth mother, Empress Wei. In filiality-obsessed Song, this instantly silenced pro-war voices. Next, Gaozong found a proxy to manage peace negotiations. That notoriously infamous man was Qin Huai. During the Jingkang Incident, Qin He had been captured by Jin and taken north. But soon after Southern Song's founding, he returned with family and jewels, advocating peace to Gaozong. Thus, many suspected Qin Hui was a Jin spy, but Gaozong needed him. In 1138, Qin Hui became chancellor and privy council head. Backed by Gaozong, he monopolized military civil power, spearheaded Jin peace talks, and crushed anti-Jin discourse. Through Qin Huai's machinations, pro-war ministers were purged, and resistance rhetoric faced unprecedented suppression. On New Year's Day the following year, Song and Jin formally signed the peace pact. Terms Yellow River as border, Song submits as vassal with tribute. Jin returns Huizong's coffin, Empress Wei, and Kinzong. For Southern Song, the ultimate shame required Gaozong to kneel before Jin envoys, accepting their emperor's seal, erasing Song's sovereignty. After scholar officials' protests, Jin relented, letting Chancellor Qin Hui kneel in Gaozong's place. Since this was the 9th year of Shaoxing, history calls it the First Shaoxing Peace Agreement. The Shaoxing Agreement resolved two of Gaozong's obsessions. Just as he prepared to disarm generals, Jin slapped him in the face. Shortly after the pact, another Jin coup brought the hawkish Wanyan Wuzhu to power.
In 1140, Wu Zhu tore up the agreement and launched a full-scale invasion of southern Song.
To survive, Gaozong had no choice but to order Song troops to resist desperately. Living up to expectations, Song forces won victory after victory. Yue Fei led his army counterattacking, reclaiming vast Central Plains territories. That July, Wuzhu was forced to lead 15,000 elite Jin troops. At Yanqing in modern Hainan, they clashed with Yue's army. Wuzhu positioned iron pagodas at center and glazi horses on flanks. Iron pagodas were elite shock cavalry, men and horses fully armored in iron. Gwazi horses referred to elite cavalry deployed on wings for encirclement. Against this, Yue Fei placed dense infantry on flanks, led by his son Yue Yun, wielding axes to chop soldiers and horse legs, while elite cavalry charged the center. Under Yue's assault, Wu Zhu's forces collapsed. He nearly got captured himself. After the Yanqing triumph, Yue Fei defeated them repeatedly. Yu's army advanced toward Kaifeng. Vanguard units reached the city. At Zushen Town, 45 li southwest, resistance forces rallied, ready to support Yue in reclaiming Song's old capital. Jin morale shattered. They called Yue grandfather Yue, trembling at his army's name. Even Wu Zhu planned to abandon Kaifeng. Jin troops in distant Yuzhou began moving treasures northeast, ready to abandon lands south of Yuyang. But then came the shocker. Just as Yue prepared to reclaim Kaifeng and push north, he received 12 golden plaque orders in one day, recalling his army. These plaques were foot-long, red lacquered boards with gold characters, Imperial Directive, no station delays. For urgent documents, relayed by express riders without rest stops, they covered 500 liters daily, the fastest delivery then. Baozong using golden plaques showed his desperation to recall Yu. Meanwhile, Qin Hui ordered other armies to withdraw first, isolating Yue's forces, making prolonged combat impossible. After careful consideration, Yu obeyed the recall order. He lamented bitterly.
10 years' work destroyed in a day!
After Yue's withdrawal, Jin swiftly recaptured the reclaimed territories.
Resistance forces in Hebei and Hedong fell to Jin suppression. Emboldened, Wuzhu invaded again, only to be repelled. Realizing he couldn't destroy southern Song soon, he shifted from war to peace, ending Jin's threat to Gaozong's throne.
Gaozong finally got his chance to address his third obsession, disarming the generals.
The year after Yue Fei's withdrawal, Gaozong sent Qin Hui to mimic Emperor Taozin's wine cup dismissal of military power.
The court summoned Zheng Jun, Han Shizong, and Yue Fei to the capital under pretext of rewarding merit. Zhang and Han arrived quickly from nearby posts, but Yue, from distant Hubei, took 6 extra days. Qin Hui grew frantic, daily feigning banquet preparations for the generals, then postponing when Yue hadn't arrived. The day after Yue reached Linan, Gaozong received them, ostensibly promoting Zhang or Han to privy chiefs and Yue to deputy, but actually stripping their military authority. Han and Yue, committed to resisting Jin, were furious, drawing Qin Hui's hatred. Qin Hui bribed Han's former subordinate to falsely accuse him of treason. Fortunately, Gaozong trusted Han and halted the case, sparing him. But Yue Fei wasn't so lucky. Yu had repeatedly opposed submitting to Jin and clashed with Gaozong over it. Fearing Qinzong's potential return, Yue urged Gaozong to name an heir, but Gaozong was childless and sterile. This military interference violated Song's ancestral laws, infuriating Gaozong and deepening their conflict. Then Jin added fuel to the fire. Shortly after Gaozong disarmed the 3 generals, Wu Zhu secretly demanded Yue's execution as a peace precondition. Now Yue wasn't just blocking Gaozong's submission. He was the military's greatest threat. Gaozong's 3 obsessions converged on one man, Yue Fei. Yu's predicament was predictable. 2 months after Wu Zhu's letter, Qin Hui and Zhang Jun, backed by Gaozong, bribed Yu's subordinates to accuse him of treason. Han Shizhong, retired but furious, publicly denounced Qin Hui. Qin Hui declared, "Though evidence is unclear, mustn't there have been something? Moxie Yu implies probable cause." Han turned livid. How can Moxie Yu convince the world? But Han's fury couldn't extinguish. Gaozong and Qinhui's murderous intent. Ultimately, Yue and his son Yue Young were executed on false treason charges. During Yue's imprisonment, the second Shaoxing Peace Agreement was signed, similar to the first with two key changes. First, Song and Jin set the Qinling Mountains and Huai River as their border. Vast territories north of it, reclaimed by Potiatic generals like Yue Fi, were ceded to Jin. Second difference, neither side mentioned Emperor Qinzong again. Ultimately, Gaozong, hailed as Song's restorer, cared only for his throne like Qinzong before him. Ruler first, state second, people last. With such priorities, how could Gaozong possibly lead Southern Song to expel Jin and reclaim lost lands? After Shaoxing Agreement, Song and Jin formally entered North-South stalemate. Yu's and Han Shizhong's armies were dismantled, crushing Song's combat power. Jin forces also decayed amid internal strife. Though they attacked each other afterward, neither broke the Qinling-Huai River deadlock. In 1206, Genghis Khan founded the Mongol Empire. Under Mongol assaults, Jin collapsed, shattering the Song-Jin balance. In 1234, Southern Song allied with Mongols to destroy Jin, claiming nominal victory in the Song-Jin wars, but now faced a stronger foe that would ultimately destroy them.
Sally's book talk previously covered The Balance, detailing this period extensively.
All right, Heavenly Split. That concludes this book's interpretation. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.